just a friendly reminder, if you are still listening, make sure you hit the follow button. It helps us out very much, and we appreciate you. Until next time, put on your tinfoil hats.
And second episode in.
I'm excited to get on with the second episode. Last time we talked about JFK, you told me to watch the latest South Park. I think that's a conspiracy. I think they're in our minds. We need to put on our tinfoil hats, because as soon as we did our episode and recorded our episode, JFK spoof.
Yeah, they did the Japanese toilets, and it definitely had a little parody of JFK movie that came out so long ago. But it was kind of like, wow, we had just talked about this, and it's very topical and interesting timing.
Yeah, it's because they're listening. That's my theory.
They're listening. Yeah, they had and then they went to develop. I mean, they could knock out episodes.
We haven't even posted the episode, and they're listening.
Yeah,
so just imagine when
they animated it.
Yeah, they animated. Just imagine when we start, putting these fuckers up. And if you're listening right now, just know that they are as well.
Tinfoil hats. So we're just 2 episodes in with this one here. We kicked it off with, you want to start with what were the conspiracy theories that you first heard about that kind of brought you into this world? And for you, it was JFK. For me, it was JFK as well. That was one of the big ones. But the one I want to focus on is what kind of cracked open this whole alien conspiracy world, this X-Files, this type stuff. And that's going to be the granddaddy of the alien conspiracies, Roswell, New Mexico. Right?
So I have a question. Was X-Files like an interlude into this, or did you know about Roswell before you saw the X-Files? Or was it kind of like simultaneously happening at the same time?
Yeah, so I mentioned last time that I was like a kid who was just kind of reading magazines, finding whatever, old shows. I was actually into it before X-Files. So I was looking at books and all that. So when X-Files came out, was like, wow,
you're about that life. Yeah,
that's me. Yeah, I'm like the Mulder. I'm like that spooky kid, and
I think I'm a little skeptical in comparison to you, Mulder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am, when it comes to I have to kind of see it to believe it, like Scully in a sense.
Yeah. And I'm more of a, like, not that I believe everything, but I kind of have like a more of an appreciation where we're like flat earthers. I'm not like keen on that idea, but I'm like, hey guys, I kind of respect your thoughts and all that, whereas you would be like, no, you guys suck and you're dumb, and that's like,
well, I
got no room to listen to that opinion. I'll listen.
I'll listen too, but I'll just call you
roll your eyes.
Roll my eyes. I would be polite. I'm sure they're very nice people, but I just can't buy into it at all. I would say this, dude. I'm always open to hear a conspiracy, and I'm not going to interrupt you or call you dumb when I'm listening to you say it. But I'm not going to always agree with it, and I think the important part about this is you got to discern for yourself, like what is actually happening and what's not.
Yeah. I like to present them and see, and kind of like that's what we're going to do here. We're just kind of challenge them, open them up, and maybe with some ideas I present today. Maybe you've heard them all, because Roswell, they've been talking about it for a long time. Sure. Maybe there's some new ideas. We're like, oh, I haven't heard that angle from it. And, nothing that, and with these, I don't know if I even believe any of them necessarily, but they're just fascinating. And I probably have gone back and forth on, like, even with knowing about this story since I was a kid, I don't even know where I firmly stand. Whereas when I was younger, I probably was like, yeah, man, it's definitely the gray aliens that crashed. And now I'm like, well, not sure it was those guys, but we'll see. So in February 2023, that's when an alleged Chinese spy balloon was shot down over the Atlantic Ocean. Apparently, this spy balloon was traversing the United States for about 5 days before it was shot down. Less than a week later, that we get reports that 3, and we can say unidentified flying objects, were shot down over 3 days over Alaska, Canada, Lake Huron. And those objects, for the information that we do have, were described as a little bit differently than that Chinese spy balloon. One was being described as small and cylindrical. One was being described as car-sized. And that's kind of all we know at this point, is that we're shooting down some sort of unidentified aerial phenomenon out of the sky. Now, for a lot of people, it's sort of a more modern phenomenon, like, with this and even like the UAP phenomenon, the unidentified aerial phenomenon. In 2017, the New York Times had published an article called "Glowing Auras and Black Money," And that seemed to many to be the first time a major news publication has spoke openly about UFOs or UAPs. They referenced government sources that quotes that there has been interest in research being done in looking into this phenomenon. But to many, it wasn't the beginning in 2017. It actually started 70 years prior, that the modern UFO phenomenon actually started in 1947. And in 1947, that was the year that pilot Kenneth Arnold had a strange sighting over Mount Rainier, which is in Washington, where it was like a fleet of some sort of UFOs that he described as different quotes, but some he'll describe as saucers if you skip it across water in the way they moved. That sort of coined the term flying saucer. And since there was a lot of sightings happening at that time, it sort of went wild. So less than really 2 weeks later from that flying saucer being coined, that's when we go into heavy conspiracy stuff in 1947, because that's when debris was discovered on a ranch in Corona, New Mexico. The rancher took the debris to the local sheriff. Those guys were kind of dumbfounded by what they found there. They take it to the Roswell Army Field, which is, 20 miles away. And that's where we get this famous press release. And maybe we can cut it into the show here, is where, let's see, where basically it was a press release saying that, a flying saucer was captured. So the headline that the newspaper ran with was the RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region, which is the Roswell Army Airfield. So you have this publication saying that a flying saucer was captured by the United States government. So it created this, as you know, this excitement about like, wow, we have freaking aliens. The government comes out, they retract the story that's not, hey, this was not supposed to be released. This isn't what it was. They come out with the general there, I think his name was Mantell, came back out saying, nope, this is actually just a weather balloon. He, was pictured with holding it up, and that was kind of like...
Yeah, weather balloon, throughout the course of history in these sightings, like weather balloons, if I'm not mistaken, have always been like a...
Right, it was...
Right.
Yeah, so it ties back to this, right? Goes to spy balloon, weather balloon, but, maybe something more, and then, So just interesting stuff here. So let's talk about, so that's kind of Roswell as we know. We'll talk about some of that, but like kind of jumping into it right here, like... As far as your recollection of Roswell,
sure,
it's kind of in line from what you know.
Yeah, I would say that's the general story. I actually visited Roswell. They opened up the site, the crash site, alleged crash site, and I had gotten to be one of the first groups to go see it. This was about 3-4 years ago, but now it's open to the public because it's like declassified and stuff like that. But it's land in New Mexico. That's about it. I mean, you're on farmland is basically, and then they try to like hype it up, but it's really just looking at it.
Yeah. So what's interesting with that is that, and I've heard about this, but it's hard because it's an alleged story. So then you get many different alleged stories where you're like, okay, I don't know if I know more of the truth now, or I'm just more confused. But Corona, New Mexico, and not a lot of people know about that. That's where the ranch originally found everything, and that's where at least
that's where I went. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then Roswell kind of is where the airfield is. So there's some versions of the story that there was multiple crash sites, Corona and in Roswell, or that it was just in Corona, but Roswell kind of took the hype because they had the airfield. They ran with the publication. They kind of, and that the town kind of embraced it, for like tourist purposes, whereas Corona's like, we don't want our name synonymous with anything.
Oh, it's alien everything when you go there,
Yeah, right. So yeah, very interesting. Now with the whole what happened, what didn't happen. So it was kind of covered up for a long time, right? I'm just saying it was a weather balloon in 1994, and this is kind of let's talk about the official story. So in 1994, the government sort of, because 90s, a lot of talk about aliens and abductions and all that was going crazy, but the government was trying to squash those things again. They released some more documents saying that, okay, here's the truth about Roswell. We were lying. So they came out with Project Mogul, that this is actually what was being done in 1947. That it wasn't, I'll give it the synopsis, not the government version, but basically that it wasn't just weather balloons. They were like super weather balloons on steroids. They were really meant more spy balloons. They were meant to spy on Soviet nuclear tests during that time. And that's why they couldn't come out and say, oh yeah, it's for that. And also that there may have been test dummies involved. So then people are alleging that there was bodies being recovered and all of that, it was just that. It was because it was test dummies and balloons wasn't satisfactory to a lot of the, conspiracy theorists. And for other people, they're like, yep, that's what it was. It was balloons. It was just test dummy balloons that does spy work. But that was sort of that next, like, this is allegedly what happened. Case closed. La la la. But of course, we have many different theories over what that could actually be. But that's kind of where we are as of today.
So if there, I guess the question that any conspiracy theorists would ask themselves, if they lied the first time, why would they be lying? Why wouldn't they lie the second time to like debunk, theories or whatever?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy, like how, and I think a lot of people still stick to that point, is how it even gets that far for them to say, captures flying saucer to print it out. Like, was he fired? The guy who was working the press release office that said, hey, we're going to run with this story today. And then just sort of like it's kind of weird how you even get to that level, even if you're caught up in the hype. And that's what some people say, is that there was flying saucer hype. They kind of was where the press release guy just kind of got caught up in that. But it's like, you think that, maybe get permission first, or I don't know, just weird how it even gets to that how it gets that far there with all the checks and balances there. So another thing about flying saucers, right? The holy grail, the granddaddy of the flying saucer crash myth. But like the thing is that they actually, there's many that have happened over or allegedly, that have happened all over the world. And from that era, there's some that the early 1900s, there was a famous one in Aurora, Texas, where a airship collides with a tower. Or no, it was like they got a hook stuck in the tower and then it crashed, and then there was an alien occupant that died, and the town people were like, gave it a Christian funeral and all that, and it's allegedly buried somewhere. South Africa has crashed UFOs. South America, the Germans, the Nazis that we'll talk about later, have had that. So there's the Soviets, like there's this Britain, there's this, this mythos that it has happened. And even besides New Mexico, well, there have been several in New Mexico or in Texas that alleged, or something's crashing. But so there's a lot more, encounters, if you will. But this is definitely the one that everyone points to as this really, really happened here. All right. So let's
break it down. Let's get into it.
So let's get into some of the weird ones here. So I figured let's start with the most human-ish theories besides the Project Mogul and test dummies and balloons. And we'll get into some of the weirder stuff here. So here's some other ideas.
All right, lay it on me. I'm interested to hear what's going on.
Okay. One theory is that the test was involving monkeys. So let's talk about the witnesses really quick. So there've been witnesses that, from the whistleblowers from the government, families of the guys who were there that day, people from funeral homes, people that alleged that there was small bodies that were recovered, small little caskets that were created, so that there was something there. Some allude to those, they must have been those test dummies. They just obviously didn't know what burnt plastic looked like at that time. But some say that there was a test involving monkeys, that the government covered it up because poor monkeys, were burning up in the atmosphere or whatever, so that's what it was. They weren't really aliens. They were just monkeys, was one book.
So the Roswell crash was caused by monkeys, or they had monkey occupants in there.
They had monkey occupants.
They were like testing altitude levels to see if they would survive or not, or
something like that, basically. Okay. Yeah, and they went through all this hoop to cover up the fact that it was just monkeys.
That's plausible. Okay. What's the next one?
Yeah. All right. So wait, I have some more information on that. So basically, they were saying that it was that they were testing some advanced Nazi warplanes called Fireballs, which were taken to America. So this could tie into Project Paperclip, which we kind of talked about. And there's a lot of Germans and Nazis that were running NASA, but maybe they were doing that. So the thing with Nazis, because it ties into Nazis, so let's go in that direction. There's a lot of theories with Nazis, right? About Nazi UFOs, Nazis that have gone to Antarctica or the moon even. There was another famous incident in 1965, and maybe you've seen this Unsolved Mysteries episode where it was in Kecksburg, Virginia, or Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, where it was basically like a bell-shaped UFO that crashed in the forest. Some people they saw like weird type of markings, which some said were like hieroglyphics, some were like Nazi symbols. Government came in, swooped it in. There's some Nazi theories about there was a Nazi bell that they recovered from like Poland. So this is idea that Nazis had their hands on some unknown technology. So there's another theory that what crashed was maybe a Nazi UFO, and that they didn't want to freak the people out to tell them that, hey, the Nazis have this advanced technology and we're, in World War II here. But that's another one, is that it's Nazi UFOs.
Nazi UFOs. So it's monkeys or Nazis at this point. Those are my options.
It's Nazis doing Nazi experiments to monkeys, or the Nazis themselves being the monkeys and crashing,
or Nazi monkeys.
Yeah,
running around.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll go to the big one, the aliens, right?
Let's hear it.
So the whole sort of mythos of aliens, right, is that they're these little gray aliens, the big eyes, the little big heads, the little slits for mouths and all that. They were allegedly, from the descriptions, right, that those were what was recovered there. They supposedly, the decades since, have been abducting us secretly, and can only tell what happened through hypnosis and all that. But yeah, some allege that that's what was discovered there. Bodies were recovered. There was maybe the autopsy that was done there. What's interesting from that is that's where we get the reverse engineering theories, that the flying saucers that were recovered kind of became the basis for all this technology that we have now. The microprocessors and computers, the Area 51 stories, the Bob Lazar. Have you ever heard of that guy? He was an alleged whistleblower from Area 51.
Yep.
And we could talk about him one day, but a lot of his stuff that he said that he was doing kind of came true as far as elements and things like that. So there's a lot of weird stuff there, but that this incident kind of created this new wave of technology, and it was because the aliens, right? So yeah, that's the main, right? You're either it's
that's
weather
the one,
balloon or it's alien.
That's the one. I mean, I've honestly never heard the theory that it was just like a test with monkeys. I never heard that theory. And then I never heard the Nazi technology and, trying to cover it up, to keep the public, at ease. I never heard that theory, but this is the main one that I've heard.
Right. And there's going to have all sorts of offshoots from this. And this is kind of what I want to talk about. But it's, basically it's a weather balloon or it's an alien from a different planet and all that. But that became the start of it. Now, what I always found weird about aliens, and this is kind of ties into the other theories we'll talk about, you're advanced, right? You're able to fly, through light years, through the galaxy, traverse the universe, all of that, get through our atmosphere. And then you're flying over a desert in the middle of nowhere and you lose control and you just crash. And not only that, but you've apparently have done this several times throughout the world in usually remote locations. It just seems weird, what did you hit? And then some of those theories are, our radar signals did it, or maybe they were shot down. But some of them are that they just lost control, lightning. But it just seems weird, especially being how remote they are.
Right. No, I mean, I get that argument. And honestly, that's a valid argument. But if they're doing this all the time, right? Let's say they're doing this hundreds of thousands of times, over the course of hundreds of years and whatever, and they've been observing us. Some of the theories state, that they're just observers and they're just trying to see how we evolve and stuff like that. One time out of 100,000 isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, there's a fuck up that happens or a malfunction that happens. So if that's the argument, it's a valid argument. But also, if you believe in this stuff, is it really out of the realm of possibilities that maybe just, one of these aliens, they're having an off day. Maybe the alien
drunk behind the wheel.
Yeah, drunk behind the wheel. Maybe the alien wife was, busting his balls that morning and, he wasn't paying attention. And he's just, oh God, she's nagging me, blah, blah, and then crashes the UFO. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. So what about this? What if it was intentional from the alien side?
Oh, okay. They were kind of sporing their technology to us or something like that.
Exactly. Right. We kind of talked about, I think it was not on a recording, but panspermia theory, which is that the seeds of life were carried on asteroids and kind of just crash landed on this planet. and mixed in with the primordial ooze to become us? What if this is, instead of the building blocks of life, became sort of the building blocks of advancement? What if you're like, hey, you're a civilization?
Well, I mean, I can maybe make the jump that this is maybe an extraterrestrial AI.
Yes, I have that on the list. That's a big one.
So AI. Okay, yeah.
And now we're talking. What if they terminated themselves? Right? They went back to the 80s to stop the guy who's going to take them down, but then part of their body gets stuck in the guts, and now that becomes a thing that creates it in the future.
Well, I mean, the UFOs. You created all the technology that we have. Cell phones, and then now we're talking singularity.
Right.
The biological and merging of biological and technology together.
Exactly. And wouldn't an advanced civilization be more likely to be an AI versus something biological, and versus something like a little gray alien body, 2 arms? Like, what if
maybe those little alien gray? I mean, why are they gray? Maybe it's just
or whatever,
metallic, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they
what if they're machines? What if they're machines?
They could be machines, exactly. Maybe they're not real bodies and all that. So, and then instead of an invasion, what if they just need us to advance enough to where we're hooked into them, and then once we are part of that singularity, boom, it's like
they already got us. They already got us, man.
So that was I was saving the AI one, but that's sort of the next train.
I mean, I'm sorry. No,
it's fine.
I just made that jump.
Right. It's kind of logical, right? Like, it's weird. Like, we're being illogical anyways, and all these steps here, but. You sent me a video yesterday where you're talking about Steven Spielberg, how he was saying that he, we were talking about the UAP phenomenon, that he thinks that it could be time travelers that are coming back, just sort of documenting, where we are and what those can be. That they're just here, and then they've been here for a long time, seeing where we are in the world here and how we got there. But it can, I mean, this ties into that. If it's like that AI or futuristic humans or all that, or they're just making sure that we're staying the course. We're staying the course. Yeah. These guys. Yeah. They haven't. I can't believe they haven't invented microprocessors. So we need some microprocessors and smartphones and solid state tech and all that.
Yeah. No, I hear you, dude. It's just I think. Well, I mean, just even the biological connection to like things like the Apple Watch, where it just tracks your heart rate and stuff like that. And now it's like they're gonna be able to sense different diseases through the watch now. They're saying that within 2 years they'll have that technology.
Yes. So I definitely think, and that's something that as we got more evolved makes more sense to me as an advanced civilization versus something that's like an alien body, that's similar to us. Yeah, they look different, but at the end of the day, they're bipedal. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. But then it's like, would an advanced civilization be like that, or would it be like even us, like I can, like us being evolved a few thousand years, I feel like is going to go to that techno transcendence jump. So like if there's an alien civilization that's like millions of years advanced, like I don't know if they'd be biological. I feel like it would be definitely more sort of cyborg at that point.
Right. Well, I mean, like you would also have like the biological processing power of maybe your brain or something like that, but it's like enhanced with microchips or something like that, and then your body is connected to I don't know. I mean, there's crazy theories. I mean, Ray Kurzweil. This is not like science fiction. Like Ray Kurzweil talks about the evolutionary track that we're on, and exponential growth of technology is basically lapping biological, evolution. Technological evolution is exponentially growing in comparison to biological. So the merge of the singularity, as he coined it, is ultimately what. And this is just a theory. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is like studied at MIT. I mean, this is studied at.
Yeah, but it's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
And Kurzweil, he's a American scientist and inventor. I think I want to say he made the Kurzweil keyboard. I'm a keyboardist, but
yeah, he did. He did make the Kurzweil keyboardist. He also was one of the first people to program a computer program that would compose music on its own as well. He was one of the first that did that. Yeah. So I mean, he's people in tech look at him say, yeah, like he's the granddaddy of like,
it just makes sense. Like
the tech space, you know,
even with staying with music for a little bit, like, you know, I'm a composer, producer, and there's this balance between trying to humanize something, which is like leaving mistakes in, kind of intentionally being sloppy, and sort of quantizing in sort of perfection, where every chord, every note hits on like the beat, every sort of, you know, when you hit different notes, some are gonna be louder, you know, depending on how your fingers are, but it's sort of this you know, homogenized sound, you know, it's like the drummer versus the drum machine. But if you look at modern music now, like before it was like, oh, there's auto-tune in T-Pain's music, oh, auto-tune in Kanye, but now it's becoming a like, that's how we've, maybe when Cher did it, we were like, that's weird, and we believe in love after love, right. But now we're like, that's what our ears are used to. We're used to this sort of technology being mixed in with the human voice to kind of create this tonally pleasant sound where it's kind of perfection. Same thing with our music. Look at our filters, man. Look at our Instagram. Look at our chicks that we like to look at, and how many of them, when they take photos, they put this weird filter on them. And my girl does it. I'm like, it's just like, how do you like this picture? I'm like, I don't know. It's not really you. Like, but it looks good. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, but it's not really you. Just show your face. Like, it's you know, where we're
right.
We're definitely incorporating it. It's only going to become, I think, you know, more enhanced with how do we become more like technology and this idea of perfection, because that's sort of that next step. That's like how we evolve. And I don't know, good or bad. I think that's, you know, that's yeah.
I mean, this could be an episode on its own. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We're well, I mean, if you think about it, like all the conspiracy theorists are like, well, you know, they're going to try to insert a chip in your hand, and you're going to, you know, that's the Illuminati trying to control you, blah, 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 blah. I don't really necessarily think it's that. I think it might just be the next step in evolution, you know, the evolutionary step into the, you know, capitalism, I guess, if you want to coin it that way. But yeah, it's interesting, man. So yeah. It's interesting that I made that jump, and that's on the list. Do you want to go over that one real quick and just to recap it, maybe?
To recap which one, I'm sorry?
The AI one. What do they say on the AI one?
Well, it's just that it kind of goes into the fact that it was intentional. And with the AI one, I thought I had saw an idea about it before that kind of got me into it, but I looked into it and I can't find anything. So it's more stuff I'm putting together. But it's just that it was intentionally that things have been sent here. Like if Roswell is real, and then you look into all these crashes that have happened, we're talking Siberia, we're talking, you know, Russian recovery of disc, Britain, all over the world, where possibly whatever this thing is, this intelligence, this artificial or whatever it is, maybe kind of like gave the seeds of this technology throughout the world to different governments to say, hey, run with it.
What is that called? Where they seed the world? Prometheus, that movie, right? That's also, you know, a Greek myth. You know, Prometheus gave
the fire.
You know what I mean? So I mean, since the dawn of storytelling, something outside of our world has given us technology. You know,
right? So this is something that could definitely play with that, the gods or all that. So and that connects to why do they keep crashing these silly aliens unless it's not
silly goose aliens crashing.
Versus something that, you know, landing here saying, hey, I want to exchange this with you. They just kind of like, you know, hey, I think the humans will buy it if we just kind of like leave it here, and they think they've recovered something. And yeah, and it's a fascinating idea, but it kind of fills in some of those conspiracy holes, if you will. So I guess we'll get into some of the wacky ones here too.
I can't wait for these.
Yeah. And yeah, it just kind of opening up this alien idea, like what are, like, all right, like if we don't believe it's a weather balloon, we believe it's a freaking thing of somewhere else, then what could they be? So there's talks that this crash, they may not have been extraterrestrials, but maybe they're intraterrestrial, where they're from this Earth. So there's maybe they come from the hollow Earth, or they're possibly Atlanteans. So there's this idea that we had a very civilized, highly advanced civilization here long ago. Ties into, you know, ancient aliens, that, you know, maybe the Atlanteans were the height of that. Stuff happens, you know, going through Ice Age, going through the flood and all that they've sort of went underground. And then too, with some of the UFO mythos, you see, and even the freaking UAP videos where like you see the little tic tac thing fly into the water. There's this idea that these things are flying underneath our oceans. They may have alien bases under there, but there's this idea that what if they're not really coming from other planets? They've been here, long ago. They're the fallen gods or whatever. They're the original humans that they got on the ground, and they kind of come above and see what's going on, but that they live in our Earth. They're our neighbors, Mike. They're our next door freaking neighbors, and they just came to borrow a cup of sugar.
Right. I've heard that theory before, the hollow Earth and stuff like that. And
yeah,
I think there's so much uncharted things in these like caverns, and it's been proven that there's underwater caverns that are dry, right? Like where it's just like there's like a shelf, like a mantle almost, where it's almost, I mean, it's dark, whatever, you can get in there, but the water doesn't fill it up. You know what I mean? So if you got our neighbors coming up to buy a cup of sugar, maybe they're not, Atlanteans in the sense where they have gills on their neck or something, but maybe there are
these or wings on their feet.
Right. I mean, they very well might have those as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I've heard that theory. I don't know how much. If they were, dude, I'll say this, man, if they were our neighbors and they were dumping a bunch of plastic in my area, I would come up and
get the shotgun.
Yeah, they would get a little curb stomp. You know what I mean? Like if they're very nice, if that's the case, they're very
tolerable neighbors. And they've been putting up with it for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't no noise complaints, no nothing.
Nothing. They didn't call the Atlantean police. I just think if I was someone's neighbor and I was living under the ocean and that neighbor was just dumping trash into my habitat, I think I would probably, and if I had that technology where I could do that, I think I'd come up and smack a bitch real quick. So I don't know what I think about that one.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of reports about these UFOs flying into volcanoes, and there's being something there into the oceans. I mean, ties into old myths about floods, civilizations going underground, being safe there. I don't know, the freaking.
I will say this:
Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki. Every civilization has a myth of a flood. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know. That's what wiped us out and to begin with. All of our technology. You've heard the theory, right, that this isn't the first technological society that we've had on this earth, right? Like we're
we're like
the fourth.
Yeah. They've all been destroyed. There was water took one out. The flood could have been the last one. Ice took out one. Fire took out one. Yeah.
Right.
And I think there's I kind of believe that we're older than we think, and I think there's a lot of archaeology that's suppressed because it shows something. Thanks a lot, Indiana Jones, for taking our technology.
You went on a tangent, man. You're like basically calling Indiana Jones a Nazi, bro. And I was just like, whoa, man.
I was on a group text with this guy, and I just had a thought about Indiana Jones. I'm like, hey, is he really the hero we think? When he's always trying to, he finds the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. He's like, this belongs in a museum. It's not in any museum, bro. He takes it to Smithsonian. They lock it up, and he's more of a history suppressor, man. So I don't know about Indiana Jones.
Well, I mean, he's a pawn, in my opinion, at best. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I found this thing. They're like, well, you need to shut up about it, Indy, or else you're not going on any more adventures. He's like, all right.
Oh man, they cut my funding, and I got to.
How am I going to get my tenure? So.
Yeah. So I mean, he's kind of a jerk. So yeah, he's a greedy guy. All right. So cracking open the alien issue. What if they're not Greys? What if they're not Atlanteans? What if they're reptilians?
Okay, so explain to the listener what the reptilian, kind of backstory of our society, because there's a whole. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
So apparently, if you believe in the aliens, there can be several species that are visiting us, and the big ones that come out in the abduction phenomena are the Greys that are sort of cute and innocent for the most part, except when they're experimenting on us and they're horrible and traumatic, but they're cool for the most part. There's the Nordics, which are Thors, basically, hot, blonde, tall, white people that sort of do sexy things in their flying saucers with us. And then there's the reptilians. They're the bad guys. They're they're shapeshifters. They're the guys. They're the Illuminati, if you will. They're the ones that have either replaced our leaders, or they are our leaders, and they sort of are the.
They're like the They Live, like aliens in the movie They Live. You know,
They Live, or there's a lot of
right.
Yeah. Right. They're the ones with the smoke screen. They're intentionally, making our world worse. They eat our negative energy and our adrenochrome and all that stuff. So what if they were reptilians? So there's this whole, like, they come from the Draco star system, all of that. But the reason I thought of reptilians was, like, here's a funny theory that I think can be just talk about the reptilians. I don't want to go on the reptilian tangent, what is that, David Icke and all that stuff, and the royal families are all lizards and all that people.
Well, we can have an episode about that later.
Yeah, we can have an episode about that.
Let's talk about Roswell and the reptilians.
So reptilians,
what's
what if
the theory? Yeah,
the reptilians aren't exactly from outer space either? What if they're evolved dinosaurs? Dinosaurs that have little arms and fly little flying saucers, and they're the Atlanteans. They're the people that live under the oceans, because they're like, these freaking asteroids are messing their crap up. So they've evolved, and they're the oldest thing that lives here. And so there's some articles. I think we should do an episode on weird articles that have been printed in the newspaper. But there was basically this one about LA, how they found this underground city populated by, like, lizard type people and all that. I forgot when it's printed. We have to just see it, but weird stuff. But there's this idea that they went underground, and that maybe they're the guys that are in control of everything there. But just, reptilians as evolved dinosaurs.
Well, I mean, that sounds like the Mario Brothers game, bro. Like, you're going.
It's like, everything, right? It's in all of our culture, right?
Yeah, it's like you eat the mushroom that makes you bigger, and then you can go down.
Yeah, it makes your mind bigger.
It makes your mind bigger, and then you can go underground through a tunnel in a sewer tube, and then underneath there's King Kuba trying to steal the princess, bro, and eat her adrenal glands or whatever the fuck they're up to down there in the sewer land underneath LA. So
right, exactly.
No, it's I mean, you start thinking about this stuff. It's kind of funny. You see all, like,
because you see the tendrils, like, go through, like, everything. Yeah, you're like, hey, this idea is out there. Like, it's
right. It's just it was 8-bit, bro. We've been indoctrinated since 8-bit Nintendo, homie. So
yeah.
No, that's crazy theory. I don't. I want to do a show with the weird stories and articles and stuff like that. But so you're saying that the reptilians are from here, and they just came up to pop up to see, like, hey, what are these monkeys doing that survived the asteroid blast, and then they just crashed like a bunch of dumbasses and
dumbass dinosaurs.
Like,
it can't reach the wheel. My little arms.
My little T-Rex arm ain't reaching. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not ergonomic for my reptilian body, and or something. So just some.
Yeah, I never heard that one. That's pretty interesting. Interesting.
Reptilians as evolved dinosaurs, and I mean that's just some wacky ones. I mean, the big ones, of course, that have been fighting out are it's very normal weather balloon stuff or alien stuff. But I think the alien route has several, weird.
Yeah, you can go down so many different avenues with that too. You know what I mean? You can go up, like, the cover up route. You can, there was also talks of, that I remember of them, capturing some of these aliens, and then the alien autopsy stuff and the alien autopsy videos, that were held in their in Area 51, live aliens were living there, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it gets weird. Yeah, they communicate with them through telepathy. There's one I can't. It starts with a D, where there's a base where they were actually, like, sort of a joint operation where you go down several floors, and there's like, here's the one where once you get past level 5, whatever, the aliens are in charge, and this one is the hybrid animal program, and this is where we have the hybrid children alien program, and here's the laser weapons and all that. And so it just gets into interesting.
So I mean, so you're what are your thoughts on it? I mean, do you think so? I'm talking from those levels and stuff like that. We're getting a little bit more deeper into, what happened and from the from the fallout rather from the crash. Do you think that that happened and that they have like underground things where, hey, well, this is the aliens floor, like you think? Like, do you think that we're working in collaboration with extraterrestrials or interterrestrials, whatever you want to call them? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I've gone sort of back and forth. Like, I've been reading about this since I was a kid, and yeah, there was a time where I really believed it was like the gray aliens. I believed all that stuff, that it was, they crashed here. We reverse engineered stuff. We were lying about it. We're covering it up. We may have, joint deals with them and we're not ready. And then I've gone over and like, I don't think that's kind of happened. I think maybe something weird happened, but maybe not that. And it's weird, right? Like, especially the stuff we know about now connecting to like 2017 and the stuff now where stuff are being shot down, where now we're talking about it. So now, even if you didn't believe in that stuff then, you start like questioning that maybe something did happen then. Because now it's sort of being framed as like it's happening very recently, like that it hasn't been, UFOs for at least the last 70 years, if not longer. Like, yeah, we started seeing some weird stuff now and we don't know what it is. But I don't know, man. I don't know anymore. I think part of me thinks that there may have been some technology that was sort of dispersed throughout the world, and which kind of opens me up to that AI idea, that something is just like they may have seeded us a long time ago, is seeding technology. I sort of get behind that one. But there's definitely like interesting stuff, the Bob Lazar stuff, the Area 51, where it seems like there's definitely something to that, and there's definitely a cover up in place. But
the Bob Lazar one, he had a show recently on. It's becoming more and more mainstream. I feel like it's like Netflix is picking up these shows.
Yeah, I think he had a documentary.
HBO. I had some stuff on there a while back. It's becoming more and more mainstream. I mean, honestly, you can talk to people now openly about this stuff, and they're not going to consider you to be crack, pot like before, where they'd just dismiss you. Like if you even mentioned something out that was not in the mainstream, he was like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And now I think it's funny because like, if you think about it from like the early 2000s and late 90s and stuff like that, it was like the conservatives would be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. That there's no way that could happen. This is America, right? And then now it's kind of switched a little bit. And now like the right is a little bit more like open to the idea of like, oh yeah, like this is some bullshit. Like people are in control or aliens or whatever rabbit hole you want to go down. They're more open and prone to believing and understanding this. And now like the left or the liberals are just like, that's crazy. What are you talking about? It's like, it's kind of been this like pendulum switch of like who believes in conspiracies and who doesn't. Yeah. And all along, I think, I believe in some of this stuff. I think I don't know specifically, or I can't definitively like put my finger on it, but I just kind of have this idea that there's something just not being told to the general public. You know what I mean? I think that's a common consensus that a lot of people have. But yeah, I think I would be in line with maybe your theory that you believe in a little bit more so. But when I was younger, it was, the Greys, they're abducting us. It was like this militant, almost like thing. And now if even if that ends up being true or whatever, I don't think it's militant. I think it's just more like curiosity, or maybe they're trying to help us, or it's they're trying to become symbiotic with us so that we can coexist, or something, whether that be AI or the Greys, or maybe they're both. Who knows? Yeah. But all I know is I know nothing, Rolando. I know nothing.
Yeah, something you hit on, which when you're talking about like the more modern sort of take on it now, I think it says a lot about the human condition that. Like we've had all these reports for a long time, and there's this perception that it's like hillbillies and rednecks. Oh, I saw light and all that, but then there have been a lot of like government agents, pilots, nuclear physicists that have seen stuff, and it was very like
hush for a long time.
Yeah, it's very dismissive. Like, okay, well, he's a conspiracy theorist. Well, it's like, all right, well, that guy was just a fisherman, but this guy is like, he worked on the nuclear bombs. He's saying all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, conspiracy theorist. But until the New York Times kind of said, okay, it's cool to, now we can sort of talk about this. We don't know what it is, but now we'll entertain the idea that there could be something. like that it took that to change that human perception that, okay, let's not be so dismissive and mean. And I think that says a lot about like authority and their control over us, and or the controls that we put on ourselves, that we can, that we, not that anything, like they haven't come out and said it's true, but just the fact that that because of that statement, that now it's okay to talk about these old cases because someone in a higher authority is saying, okay, we're not being dismissive of you guys anymore and looking down on you. So quit looking down on yourselves. I think it's a sad human conditioning thing.
Well, I mean, obviously, and I think the more and more people kind of question things, it's a form of control that's lost. You know what I mean? Like, they call it mass media for a reason. You know what I mean? It's because it's going out to the masses. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that everything that comes through on television or Netflix or anything is a lie or anything like that. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's withheld to the general public. And that's a fact. I mean, if you look at the Central Intelligence Agencies, like debriefings and, they release stuff, 40, 50 years later as they declassify, and it's still redacted. And we touched upon that in the JFK episode. Yeah. Why can't the general public know? You know what I mean? And why are we being treated like children ultimately, where it's like, I understand it, it's a form of control. That's, I'm not going to say I don't understand it. It's a form of control. But yeah, I think it's plausible that there are certain things out there nowadays that maybe haven't been reported on, and maybe the people that are talking about them, maybe you should listen a little bit, because they are being bullied, or they are being dismissed, or they are being, I guess, not perceived, but also the masses, or not the masses, but the agencies are saying, oh, this person is just a crackpot or something like that. Well, why are they doing a smear campaign if the guy is just, if someone's on the street just acting crazy, you just kind of ignore them, you know what I mean? But like, why are they even coming back and say, oh, that's not true? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why put their career on the line, their credibility, to say something unless they had some sort of experience that they can't explain? And that's usually how these are. Yeah. But
anyway, man. Yeah. So any more Roswell crazy theories?
I guess just, not that I've really read one, but if we're talking about that, is there's this idea that aliens or the abductions are fairy folk, that it's this idea that whatever is going on now sort of has been with us for a long time, and it just sort of changes its shape to kind of match what our perception of it. So like with fairy folk, right? You're Irish and all that, like, and all that, but
don't slander me like that.
But there's these myths that are very similar to like the abduction phenomenon. Let me get some more lights. No, we're fine here. People have been kidnapped, taken to these other sort of worlds, missing time, all of that. That it's sort of been this idea that there's some other thing that's out there, and it could tie into the inner world folks or whatever. So whether they're fairy folk, whether they're fallen angels or something, I guess there's a spiritual idea of these sort of interdimensional beings. How that manifests itself, if it were to crash into one of our deserts, I have no idea. But there's this idea that aliens aren't really, not technology, not aliens.
It's so funny that you bring that up, because when I went to that Roswell thing, it was like it was like the 60th anniversary or something. I don't know. When did the Roswell crash happen again?
47. So it would have been 70 years in 17.
Yeah. So I went in 2017. So it's the 70-year like reunion or something. So there was a bunch of panels. Like the guy that wrote the book Fire in the Sky was there. There was a bunch
Travis Walton. Okay.
Travis Walton was there. There were some Nordic looking motherfuckers walking around town. I was just like, hey, beam me up, guys. You know what I mean? What's up? The like the blonde ladies, and like these guys were, it was weird, dude. Like I got this vibe, and it was just like, this dude looked like fucking Thor, and his wife or whatever just looked like a 6-foot Barbie doll. Like it was ridiculous, and they were just walking around like they just flew on a fucking UFO. No, but there was a bunch of panels, right? And not to get too off course here, but this one lady came in and was arguing with the panel, saying that it wasn't aliens, that it was fairy folk, and that was like an actual person like coming in. And so you bringing that up, I just kind of I was giggling through the whole thing, because some of the logic jumps that they made, like I was just like sitting in the back of the room, just kind of like laughing a little bit, but also like I paid my, whatever to get into these rooms, and to listen to it because it's interesting to me.
It's interesting, right?
Right. But no, there was an actual argument that it was not aliens. It was old world, fairies or goblins or whatever the fuck. Or,
yeah. So the guy at the press release,
leprechauns, whatever.
Like, it's a goddamn fairy that fell out of the sky. Well, we can't print that shit. We'll just say it was like flying saucers that crashed. Better than saying fairy folks. All right, let's go with that. And then it's like, you idiots, you can't say either. Why'd you say flying saucer? Should have just ran with the fairy stories. So, but yeah, they're both kind of.
No, it's wild, dude. It's
the lesser of two evils at that point. Let's run with the flying saucer over the fairy folk that crashed. So we talked about monkeys, talked about Nazis, talked about greys and reptilians, dinosaurs, and Atlanteans, and AI, and fairy folk. Yeah. So all ideas for what could have crashed in Roswell or Corona in 1947. But they're all fascinating ideas. Maybe in 5 more years I'll come around to this fairy folk thing. I'm okay with that. Let's go more on the fairy folk angle. But, do you think we're a month on from these things that were shot down in February over pretty much the northern border of the USA?
Yeah.
You think the Biden administration or whoever comes in next is ever going to talk about what may have happened there, or that there's going to be something that sort of manifests itself from whatever happened in February here?
So this is the thing, dude. Like, I think a lot of stuff is still being withheld on that. I'm a big proponent for, there's got to be something out there, right? This is like the universe is just so big, and now they're talking, metaphysicists and physicists and stuff like that are talking that like interdimensional stuff is actually kind of like a reality, like string theory and all that stuff. Like more and more, it's like pointing to like, okay, that there can be like dual realities and an infinite amount of those dual realities, and and if you learn how to cross that veil, if you will, or whatever, different dimensions within the realities and different timelines and stuff like that, like, and you're seeing it in the zeitgeist of like the entertainment narrative too, with like these Marvel movies and stuff like that. Like,
you're seeing it, the multiverse, and you're even seeing it with like in the paranormal world, where you're seeing these things where there was sort of the alien camp and the Bigfoot camp and the ghost camp, and they kind of sit in their own camp because the Bigfoot guys think it's a creature, and the alien guys think it's from another planet, and the ghost guys think it's spiritual. But now there's a sort of overlap where they're looking at like Bigfoot as sort of being more of an interdimensional type creature.
Right. That's relatively newish idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's connected with this UFO phenomena back in the past. They were like, hey, we saw Bigfoot, then we saw a flying saucer. Let's just not talk. That's too weird. Now they're sort of embracing that there is something very weird. And
the whole cryptid community, when it comes to stuff like that, like, is also being more open to like extraterrestrial or UFO phenomena, like you're saying. Like, it just doesn't, like Mothman, or stuff like that. There's more and more people are seeing connections with like seeing ships or seeing something that kind of like almost like takes the veil away from like our reality, right? Like,
right. And they're embracing the stuff that kind of made it weirder and saying, okay, well, there's just something that's very weird going on, so let's embrace it and let's look at it from different angles, where it may not be a creature exactly, it may be something more than that. It may not be an alien thing that came from another planet, but something that even crazier than that. So there's this, whether we get to it, I don't know, but I feel like if there hasn't been disclosure because maybe we've looked at it the wrong way or been closed-minded, maybe we're slowly getting to.
So I'm going to pose a question. So like, you asked me a question, like, what do you think about the administration and allowing, information to get out to the public and stuff like that? Like I've never personally experienced anything. Do I believe that there's, do I believe that there might be aliens or something? Like, absolutely. Like I really truly believe that. I think it's just, we are so small on, that in the grand scheme of the universe, that like it would be ignorant to think that we are the only species that, look at how many species we have on our planet in comparison to, just like it's just crazy that we're even here. You know what I mean? Like that's my what I come back to, like the environmental levels have to be at a very specific spot for us to kind of thrive. And then we have imposable thumbs and stuff like that. Like, it's just crazy that we exist and we are, talking over airwaves, to each other from different states right now. You know what I mean? So to get it back on track, what if they are? I'm going to pose you another question to you right now. Like, what if they are allowing it to be released, through social media, through TikTok, through Instagram, through these videos that we see, like the technology allows more people to see it if they're looking for it. The algorithm in itself is going to feed it to people that want to see it. You know what I mean? Subconsciously, even, you know what I mean? And just from what they view and, people, also view at the same time. So what if it is kind of they're not going to come out like on ABC and tell everybody that isn't open to the idea of it, like, hey, this is what's happening. But like, I know for a fact, like on your YouTube or on your, Instagram or on your TikTok, you're seeing alien shit every once in a while. You're seeing, interdimensional stuff or cryptids or stuff like that. So what if that is happening right now? What if they are just kind of allowing it to kind of unleash it a little bit but they're doing it in a way that's a little bit less, direct, but more methodical to like getting it to the people that need to see it kind of deal. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it could be we're getting to a point where you can't cover it up if you try it. I mean, like with technology, there's like the moon, for instance, has a lot of like, that's a whole conspiracy thing in itself. What's there, the dark side of the moon. The U.S. sort of had that dominion over the moon. Now we're looking at it at a point where, like, I think China's sending unmanned probes there or ships there, and they're going to be discovering things. I think Elon Musk is going to be sending like a group of normies, artists there to kind of take pictures on it. So, yeah, it becomes like if there's big, dumb blocks of evidence somewhere, then it may be impossible to suppress any longer. And yeah, I mean, with the disclosure, I don't know. It seems interesting, right? Like 2017, when sort of documentaries and Disclosure Project came out, a lot of people were thinking, or the Blink-182 guy who was part of that a lot of stuff was going to come out. And it's been a slow trickle. I mean, we've gotten farther than we were, but it's not like a big, it hasn't been any big reveal yet. But I don't know, like then stuff like that in February where at least things are being shot down, where it's like, okay, they may have been shooting things out of the sky for a long time that are of unidentified origin here, but now we're sort of at least mentioning it. I guess we'll see where we're at by 2030. Has there any big advancements in that, or are we still in the dark on stuff? I mean, part of me thinks that, hey, there will still be in the dark if we can, but nature finds a way, so we'll see what can happen in that time.
You think that there is like an ultimate like cover up happening in the grand scheme of things? Not to pinpoint you down on something, but yeah, right.
I do think like I'm kind of an ancient alienist theory guy myself.
Yeah, a lot of it. I like that theory a lot. Actually, it makes a lot of sense to me, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, where like there's been some like Battlestar Galactica, and there've been like shows where they kind of, maybe that new one with Kylo Ren, what's his name, with that dinosaur movie. This idea that we've advanced, maybe not advanced civilization, but it could have been like a few rocket ships came down, crash landed here, had to sort of survive here, but kind of seeded like that, were treated as gods, but they weren't like omnipotent gods. I can create anything. They were pretty smart, but they didn't really have the resources, but right. That kind of helped, but they have no way of going back, and maybe we're not even close to the planet until, there's this whole planet Nibiru thing, the that's supposedly on the other side of our sun or something like that, but it's in our galaxy. But they've talked about how we might be close enough to them one day that if there's someone there, that they'll be able to visit us, and maybe there are Anunnaki overlords and all of that, the people who've sort of helped set up things. But so yeah, I mean, there could be. I do think there's something like maybe they're not best friends with the Greys, and they don't have deals with them, and they know exactly what's going on. There's the way the government kind of says it now is like they've seen some things, they don't know what they are. They're kind of in the dark too. They've been studying it, but they don't know. Like maybe there is a component of that where they really don't know, and they're trying to figure out. And since they don't have all the clues, they're just kind of hoarding what they have.
Holding back on information because they don't know the answer.
Yeah, they may not be in control of what the other guys want to do, and maybe there's some of like those abductees who are like, oh yeah, they don't want to reveal themselves because they feel like we're not ready. So I don't know. It's hard to say what's out there, but I think there's definitely it would be disappointing if there was nothing out there at all. So whether it's fairy folk, Nazis who made it to the moon, living on
Nazi monkeys, whatever.
Nazi monkeys, something like there. It makes life more interesting to think that there's like magic in the universe and stuff.
So what's going on next week? I think I'm up. Right.
Yeah. So what are we doing next week? You hit us.
I kind of want to go into alternate realities a little bit. Maybe talk about the Mandela effect and conspiracy theories, and maybe just talk about the highlights reels of like the Mandela effect and how people think that there is something that has changed or they've jumped timelines or something like that. Because I actually do believe that there is multiple timelines. I honestly think that like the choose your own adventure books were like gearing us up for that. If you do this, you go there and you go, there's multiple ways the story can end for you. Now that being said, you're it's not like you jump and like now everything's different in the timeline. I think the choices you make, it's like string theory, dude. Like you go, you go down one rabbit hole, you go this way, you go down the other rabbit hole, you go that way. But I think the Mandela effect is a good introductory thing to kind of get weird with it on this podcast a little bit.
Well, hopefully, there's a good list to choose from now. I mean, I know some of them
arguments. Maybe we're in different timelines, Rolando.
I was a Berenstein guy, but then I was like, Berenstein? I don't remember that.
Yeah, right. I got one for you. Did the Monopoly man have a monocle or no?
My childhood memories say that he did. So yeah.
My childhood memories say that he did not. So
yeah,
we're coming together via the Google machine here. So maybe we'll have to put some of these to rest. There's also the Sinbad Shazam one. There's another, the whole original one, the Mandela, like that he died in
that he died versus becoming he was a political prisoner and he became president, but that he died in jail.
Yeah. So do you remember that? Do you remember him?
In my reality, no, I remember him getting out and becoming president. One of our friends was like, no, I remember hearing about him dying. I'm like, oh, so, I mean, yeah, it just, is it, yeah. It's interesting, but is it sometimes just misremembering things? But
I have a theory on the Mandela effect. I think it's a psyop to gaslight a whole lot of people and to make them question it. That's my working theory.
Save it for the show, bro.
All right, bro. Yeah, we're gonna wait.
Hopefully, get that. See if there's more ideas out there, especially with like the TikTok stuff. Now I'm sure that has maybe been cracked wide open, and there's a lot more stuff to choose from. But interesting to talk about and the alternate reality stuff.
Absolutely, and TikTok is just an echo chamber of like what you want to kind of see in your world, right? So that being said, I hope that we are in your echo chamber, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok and all of those places. So yeah, we really appreciate you listening. And anything else, Rolando, before we go?
Stay weird.
Thank you. I will. And I hope you all do too.
Everybody. Yes.
Everybody. I hope you all do too. But I will take that to heart personally. I will definitely stay weird. Thanks, man. Always good talking to you, brother. And we'll pick up on this next time.
All right, man. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too, bro.
Just a friendly reminder, if you are still listening, make sure you hit the follow button. It helps us out very much, and we appreciate you. Until next time, put on your tinfoil hats.